one.
This is episode number 408 of WPwatercooler, selecting the right solution for your project.
Whoa.
WP All Import can import any XML and CSV file. It also imports images too. You can easily import data to plugin and theme fields, and you can even schedule those imports. Check them out at WPAllImport.com.
They're not kidding. You can do all that stuff. It's pretty good.
Weglot is one of the best WordPress multilingual plugins to translate and display your website in multiple languages. It provides a fast first layer of automation translation that can edit yourself, work with teammates, and collaborate with pro translators. Check them out at weglot.com, WEGLOT.com.
Collaborate. Wait.
I'm Steve Zehngut. I'm the founder of Zeek Interactive, and I run the OC WordPress Meetup. And I guess I'm first.
I'm Say Reed. I make WordPress, teach WordPress, preach WordPress, do all the things at Say Reed Media, at Twitter, mostly.
And it's your boy Jason Cosper, aka Fat Mullenweg, back at it again on the world's most influential WordPress podcast.
He's not
Speaking
wrong.
of that podcast, it's Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify is where you can go leave that.
Tell the world. Jason's here too.
He's Jason Tucker.
He's not actually here.
Yeah, well,
I don't know what happened. I left myself out.
you left yourself out of the intro, dude.
I did. That's awesome.
Oh,
Hi.
wow.
How are you doing?
I was surprised there.
9 years in, I got a light. Jason's not in the intro anymore. I mean,
We got
I got recast.
We got music back, but we lost Jason. So
Yeah.
we'll get there.
Cosper's
We'll get
right. By year 10, this thing is going to be like smooth.
Dialed in.
Dialed in. That was the word I was looking for. Dialed in. Hey, speaking of dialing things in, Steve.
Segue.
Yeah. I'm
just reminded me,
phoning it in this week.
Yeah, I'm already insulting you. You haven't said anything. That did remind me of you can't do that on television. Anybody?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Alanis Morissette was on that show.
I'm too
was.
old for that.
You're too old. All right, look, that's not what we're here to talk about. This is not a pop culture show from the 80s. FYI.
Nope.
It could be. But today's question is an interesting question. Does anyone want to talk about it? Or should
Would you like to ask it, or are you just going to leave it there?
That's all. It's a good question. Don't you wish you knew what it was?
So
No,
go for it. Say, if you're gonna go for it, go for it.
I'm going to do it. I just wanted to say that this is a question you have to ask yourself constantly because it is easy to get in a rut, especially just in general in life. But when you've been building websites, WordPress websites, you tend to have your go-to tools. And if you don't revisit the well to see if there's new stuff in it, or the bazaar next to the cathedral that's a fortress. But side note.
By the way, we are your 4 go-to tools on the water cooler.
I mean, it's true. They are my 4. So what I do is I just ask these guys. But what do you do if you don't have these guys on your speed dial chat? You know, really, that's what we are asking here. What do you do if you're not friends with Steve, Cosper, and Tucker? I don't know.
Well, I'll tell you the well that I would normally go to was Steve's Meetup. I'd go to Steve's Meetup and I would listen to all the folks talk about what they're using, how they're using it, what's being, and what's nice about it is it's not video. So you can actually like raise your hand in person and be like, hey, can you show me that thing again? Instead of just being, yeah, exactly. You don't have to push a button and raise your hand.
Or you could be like, wow, that person looks shady. I don't want to use what they're using. That's really what I use. There's a lot of marketing. There used to be a lot of like really like hustle. Oh, what's the word for it? You call it, Cosper? Hustle goblin.
Yes.
There were a lot of hustle goblins at the meetup. So I'm just saying. I love that word.
I will give a shout out to, I mean, a lot of meetups have been doing Zoom meetups still, since we're still in the middle of this pandemic that we don't normally talk about on the show, to try to keep things. Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, not if you actually went out to everywhere that I go to lately, because people are. I mean,
there's no pandemic in Bakersfield. Just so you.
And Steve lives in Orange County, so I'm sure going through
There's no
Huntington Beach.
pandemic there either.
Wait, we're in a
Yeah.
pandemic?
Right. However, one of the meetups that I think has been doing a really interesting thing, and I'm going to give a shout out to it, is my local meetup, the Bakersfield WordPress meetup. Every 2 weeks, they have a WordPress Wednesday where you kind of come, and it's just like a social learning session, almost like how the WordPress training team has been doing things, where someone shows up, they, like talk about things, ask about like, so what plugins do you guys use for this? It's a small meetup. It's only like 5 to 9 people. I'm sure that they could use more people in that brain trust. But I just kind of, I'm not planning those meetings. However, I saw that the other day, like how many they had on the calendar, and I was like, oh, wait a minute. So I looked into it and thought, this is pretty nice. And since it's on Zoom or Hangout, it's absolutely something that you can drop in on.
So basically, it's a similar thing. We're talking about like the term you use there, the brain trust, right? Like that's a lot of the go-to, like just your immediate peers or your immediate like working colleagues group is where a lot of people get their new stuff. But like what about the new stuff that's coming out? Like we get notified about that, and especially Cosper, he listens to, has a lot of feelers and antennae out there, out there, and listening to that stuff. So you're bringing that in. You've been doing a lot of newsletter surveys lately.
Oh yeah. I mean, a lot of the WordPress newsletters that are out there, WP Mail, the Post Status newsletter. It seems like with the Post Status newsletter, every week it just gets longer and longer and longer.
Gmail cuts it off, and I have to click a button to be able to like see the rest of it.
And then you have to, and when you click the button, it doesn't take you to where you were. It takes you back to the top. So you got to scroll down to get there.
Most definitely.
However, very useful. There's a bunch of them. I can throw some of that in the show notes. But I keep up on all of these. I don't click through on everything. But there is a definite, you kind of see where things are going. You kind of see,
what's the new hotness?
Yeah, I'll give Post Status a specific shout out. They have had Courtney Robertson doing WordPress community recaps. So like what's going on like the Make blogs and in like all the Make meetings for the week. That normally ends up in the Post Status newsletter, at least a link to it. But I think they come out on Wednesdays.
Does that help you with your tool selection?
It lets me know where things are going.
It's that selection. Sorry.
I think those are great ways of finding new stuff that's going on. But when you have like a particular plugin or particular issue that you're trying to address, that's when you're like, oh crap. What do I do? Do I just start like Googling stuff? Do I start like looking in
WordPress plugins?
Free.
Nope. Don't do that. Don't do that.
He's like, don't even joke. It's not funny.
Nope.
People do it.
No, it's not funny.
Don't listen to us. Yep.
Don't listen to that. We were being sarcastic.
Yep.
Give me that.
But yeah, so I mean, when you have a particular issue that you're trying to address, I think for me, I would go and look at what plugins am I currently using and see if that even has that type of functionality in it. For instance, like if you need to sell one thing and then you come to find out that you have a forms plugin that's installed that lets you sell one thing, hey, you just found the solution to your problem. Until you need to sell like 5 things and put them in a shopping cart and then apply coupons and all of those sorts of things. Then you get further down the line, which is kind of what you were talking about, Steve, right? Is that like figuring out what you need in order to be able to get to the right solution?
That's a good example. And I think, what a lot of people I've seen, they take the approach of, let's just install the plugins first and figure it out, right? But that when you do that, you're missing the step of sort of defining the problem first. And so what I like to do is sort of look at what I need to build and what I'm going to need to build in the next version of the thing that I'm building, right? So I'm not just building for this version, but the next version, so that I don't box myself into a corner. But I think what Jason said is important is if I need an e-commerce solution, right? There's many ways to skin a cat when it comes to e-commerce, right? Am I selling one product? Am I selling 5 products? Am I selling 1,000 products? Do I need a shopping cart, right? Or am I taking simple donations, or am I selling variable products? There's all kinds of ways to look at that. So really sort of the best way is just sort of write it out on paper what you're doing so that you can visualize it. And that's a good way to help you make the decision. Post-it notes are fine. Yeah, Post-its are fine.
I will also cite something that Steve touched on, which is you have to plan for the second version of a thing. So say you figure out like, oh, my form plugin will handle e-commerce stuff. You have to figure out like, okay, when I graduate to the next level of what I'm trying to do, am I going to be able to import that data into the next thing, be it WooCommerce, be it whatever else? Make sure that what you have is transferable to something else, and you're not setting yourself up for more work down the line.
Yeah, that migration is key. You're absolutely right.
Sometimes you can use our sponsor for that type of stuff. That is not a plug for our sponsor. No, we usually don't, but I am, in no coincidence, had tweeted about WP All Import the same week that they decided to sponsor. Not related at all. I use them and have used them for a long time, and I just used them on a project on Monday, and I was just or Wednesday, I don't know. So pleased.
I'll tell you
how easy it is, and how my favorite part about WP All Import, by the way, is just how you can template it, you can test it, they let you undo it. Like, it is just such a forgiving piece of software. Anyway, that's my little plug.
Well, I'll tell you a quick little story is that I learned about that plugin from Steve's Meetup. The guy drove down like 150 miles or whatever from wherever he was up in like Agora or something. And he shows up and he just starts explaining this product to us. And we're just like, wow, that's pretty badass.
Yep. Lewis is great.
Yep. Lewis is great.
It's a great product. So I think that can really, but again, that's another product. So if you are building into moving from phase 1 or features in phase 1 to phase 2, then you need to have that product and know how you're going to get, like Cosper was saying, how are you going to get from phase 1 to phase 2 if you're not using that same tool? They need to be compatible in some way.
And you can also, so real quick here, you can also identify, and this may be part of your plan, that you don't need to migrate. Maybe your first version of the site is a prototype only, right? And you don't need those first set of orders or that first set of data in your second version of your site. That's okay too, as long as you know that ahead of time, that what I'm building right now is kind of a throwaway, and then the next version I'm going to be building something new.
Sure.
So we talked about this, I think earlier this year, but I don't remember when it was. We were talking about product roadmaps, because obviously there's 2 sets of roadmaps that need to be consulted here. One is your site or the client site or whatever the project is, right? And the roadmap for that. Where is it going? And are you going to need to use a more robust plugin later? You might as well install now, et cetera, et cetera. So that roadmap, really important. But the product roadmap is also really important, especially as you return back to tools that you have used over time, because we're seeing a lot of turnover in the WordPress world right now. Acquisitions, things are being sold, people are leaving the community because it's older, right? WordPress is 15, 16, something like that now. And people's careers are just moving on through that system. And so that includes plugin developers who have been hugely committed to the WordPress community or building their ecosystem. And when a tool that you've used for since its inception maybe is sold to a bigger company or is, absorbed into something, that has to play into that decision. So you need to know where that's going, because if you're using a tool that's going to be obsolete by the time you get to next year, that's not going to help anybody.
Yeah.
And
There's some refactoring involved.
Because they're going to be like, we just bought this license, now we have to buy this other thing.
And just because you find a competitor doesn't mean that competitor is going to have the exact same feature set. And you may be taking one for the team by going like, all right, well, I'm going to switch to a different product because I don't believe in the philosophies or the whatever's behind this product that I'm currently using, but maybe the other one's just not as good.
I'll give you an example, and that's advanced custom fields. I mean, that's been a roller coaster ride over the years. We use it as a key part of most of the sites that we build, right? And we sort of bank on it, but version, I think it was 2 to 3 was a complete rewrite and broke all of our sites. And it's recently it's been acquired. So we don't know what the outcome of that plugin is going to be. Right. And so we're banking on that plugin surviving, because if it goes away, that is a major migration that we have to undertake on all those sites that we've built with it.
Especially because ACF data is not necessarily a one-to-one transfer.
It's not portable.
Yeah, it's a mess in there. It's like it's like a miniature block mess.
I will tell you this. They've done a fairly good job making it work with post meta. Like the post meta is there, and it's sort of it's okay. But the way that ACF's UI is built is those UIs just don't exist in other plugins. So the
good thing about WPL import is that they have the ACF add-on, so you can have that dialogue between your old data and your new data. But again, we're really talking about entire sites being banked on a plugin. It's not just the WordPress software that is holding these things up, right? It's these plugins that have become integral parts of big websites. I mean, ACF is like standard on big websites.
Yeah. Go ahead, Cosper.
So I was going to say, and it's kind of interesting to me, Steve. In that case, do you have an escape plan, an exit strategy if something goes sideways with ACF? Is that we'll figure it out when we get to it? I like to know my exits. I like.
Do they pronounce it Drupal? They'd pronounce it Drupal, right?
Right. Zing.
Again, if ACF just goes away, right? The sites aren't going to die, right? Nothing's going to break because we've got the code is just there, right? Again, the data works because it's all built with standard post meta. What has to be rebuilt is the UI. So all that UI that our clients are used to within ACF, which is very user friendly, right? That's why we use ACF, because the clients find it very easy to use. That's the stuff that's going to have to be rebuilt, and it just doesn't exist in the other MetaBox plugins.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, the exit plan is fork ACF, right? As far as I'm concerned.
Ultimately, Sam might be right. It's keep ACF up to date ourselves with new versions of WordPress.
Oh, someone's jumping ship. Did you? I mean, obviously we've got a comment here, someone moving from ACF to MetaBox, but I'm curious if you did that because of the sell to the other company, or if you just wanted to change.
Yeah, so Jim, let us know in the chat.
Yeah, it's again, there are other options for this thing, right? But again, I don't want to harp too much on ACF. Part of the reason we love it is because it is so user friendly.
Right.
Now,
but so
what's changed, and again, it's just very off topic, but what's changed is Gutenberg. Right, Gutenberg and the block editor has completely changed ACF. So it's naturally kind of changing. The whole interface of WordPress is changing anyway. Which is
right, because now we've got the concept of maybe we're entering data in as blocks, like in the blocks. Like it's a bit of a tangle that I do not feel has been worked out to any workable solution at this point. But that's another thing that really, I mean, what we've talked about so far is plugin developers leaving, or plugins getting bought, or plugins changing. Plugins may just
phase out naturally because WordPress is changing.
Right.
Right.
It's basically absorbing some of those features into core. And I mean, in a way that's really good because it makes the core product stronger. It just, again, the migration, like I know Tucker's been doing a lot of testing of migration from Beaver Builder to Gutenberg and, you know, trying to test out all the new, or Beaver Builder to the block editor.
Right.
And yeah. The cool thing is that with the block editor and all of the new stuff that's coming with it, we are coming up on kind of a new, I don't want to call it a gold rush, but a new product rush of all sorts of products that are basically trying to do the block version of whatever X plugin is, right? So the blockified version of ACF or whatever. So there is a a more open field right now in the new WordPress core to create plugins that work, you know, for the modern WordPress. And then how the real question I have then is, how do you find those? Sorry, I know I'm just
Cosper's trying to get a word in here.
Just do it. Just jump in.
No, Steve, go.
You go.
I forgot what I was going to say. So it's
write it down. That's what I have to do. Write it down.
yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
I mean, is it now our audience will never know what amazing things Cosper was going to say.
Pearls of wisdom. Just
snatched from your very ears.
I know.
But again,
it's a shame.
This sort of, I mean, what we're talking about is this evolution of selecting the right tool for the job, right? How do you predict that? You can't predict the future of any of this stuff that's going to happen, right? Nobody has a crystal ball as to what's going to happen, whether the plugin developer is going to be around, whether WordPress naturally just the plugin or the platform that you're using just sort of naturally goes away. You know, and we haven't even talked about page builders. I mean, we sort of mentioned Beaver Builder, but
I think about this all the time because I'm launching sites in Divi.
Yeah. Not Cosper. Okay, wait, he's going to lose his thoughts. So let him go.
I actually, based on what you were saying about WordPress core, like earlier about WordPress core, you know, adding a feature that now all of a sudden isn't, you know, like a plugin isn't necessary anymore or whatever. I used to maintain the 4 strong passwords plugin that would make it so you had to pick a strong password. Now in the password selection, like if you type a weak password, it makes you acknowledge the fact that you're typing a weak password. Guess what? Like, even though it was like 4 strong passwords, the whole idea was to make people use better passwords. And now WordPress built in has that. I don't see a need to keep updating that, to keep, you know, worrying about that. So I retired it. I sunsetted it.
It's not still in the repo?
It's not still in the repo, but come to find out after I sunsetted it, I found out that people are like, but I still really wanted to force strong passwords. And fortunately, there are a few forks. There's some stuff where people have done some different stuff around, you know, enforcing it with WPCLI and things like that. But I will say, I can tell you firsthand, these things happen.
I think you need to update 4 strong passwords to make it so that you can't check the checkbox on I'm accepting.
Right.
So it's just that's
or install freemius on it. Put freemius on it, Cosper.
Checkbox, it's like it puts up a thing and it says no, you can't.
It should just shame you. Yeah, it should just play
like
it sound and shame you at that point.
I have a question for you guys.
Everyone at risk here? What are you thinking? It's not about you.
So I have a question for you folks. So how do you explain if you're at a WordPress meetup and somebody comes in and they say like, I want to try out like 9 different of these whatever plugins. It could be SEO plugins, it could be form plugins, it could be whatever. How would you explain to them how to go about that? Like, do you tell them make a staging site and then install it and play with it, and then like, this one sucks, and then create a whole new staging site and do it all over again? Do you tell them to just install all of them at the exact same time and just let it fight it out and see which one wins? Like, how do you approach this?
The running joke from our meetup, and it became a running joke because we saw it so many times, is when we'd look at the dashboard on somebody's site, we'd see 4 different caching plugins active or 4 different SEO plugins active. And the running joke became, hey, 2 SEO plugins equals double the SEO, right? Everybody knows that.
I mean, it's simple math.
Right. Yeah. Right. And it's exponential because 3 SEO plugins, now you have all the SEOs.
You are the SEO.
Right. Truth of the matter is you have to be very careful with that. Right. So I'm obviously joking. You do not want, what you don't want to do is install them all and start activating a bunch and forget to deactivate them. And I think what Jason's getting at here is you don't want to do any of this on your production server. Don't do this on your live site. So
but you do want it in the same environment, and you do want to have the collection of plugins that you're currently using in there just to make sure that they all work together.
It's fine to install them all. It's not, you just have to be careful with what you're activating and deactivating. Right. And so the way I like to do this is I do this in a sandbox. I do this on a local install whenever possible. You can do this with ServerPress, with desktop server. And for those of our audience that are listening that use WP CLI, I make really good use of WP plugin list and WP plugin activate and deactivate. Those are really good commands to use to sort of manage that whole thing, rather than try to pay attention to what's in the plugin list. Because once you start installing, 9 forms plugins and 10 slider plugins and 4 SEO plugins, you've got a mess.
No one should be using a slider plugin though.
I agree.
Don't do it.
But they do.
But they
shouldn't.
But they do.
Yeah. I've been having that argument with a designer over the last few weeks. It's been fun. Anyway, so when I am comparing things for a project, I always have a recommendation, obviously, but I generally like to present options to my clients. So I will make up a little matrix or just a little small analysis that explains, basically features versus price. And why I might recommend one over another. Those could include compatibility, like these have integrations that go together with this other plugin that you're using. But I think it's really important to document that for not just for your clients, but for yourself, because I've gone back to sites like the site's done and then you come revisit it, or maybe they ask you to come back and do more stuff or whatever. Or you're just revisiting it and upgrading it. And you can't remember why you may have used a certain plugin versus a different plugin. And you're like, wait, but this one does all this stuff. And maybe you've gotten into it on a different site now. And that is really helpful to be, there's no, like when you're coding, you can comment in there, right? You can be like, hey, this is why I'm using this. But there's no notes section on the plugins, on WordPress in the dashboard.
At Zeek, we would call that writing to future say.
Yeah.
And Jacob actually would write notes addressing future Jacob. That's literally how he would.
Where does he/you/they keep them? Like, is that just a Google Doc? That's
if it's in code, it's in comments, or if not, it's either in Google Docs or Evernote.
But we're talking about for a third-party plugin, so these aren't plugins you're making yourself. So you're not going to go look in the code. You put it in the README file?
No. You can if you've got it stored somewhere, or put it in a Google Doc.
Then you'd have to make a copy of the plugin.
I'm saying if you're on a local site, then put it in the README doc of your site.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I was like,
sounds like a great plugin that needs to be written that keeps track of notes for each of the plugins that were installed.
It's going to be called Notes to Future Me.
That's actually a great name for a plugin. I like that. We always come up with such great product ideas on the show. Really, that's what
we do.
If we just executed on one, it'd be great.
It's our gift to our audience and our dedicated listeners who get to minute 29. Like, here you go. Here's a present. We'll use it and we'll talk about it on the show.
Oh, I can't wait to use notes to future me. It's gonna be great.
Yeah, that's a definite thing. Like it could pop up when you open, like when the plugins for upgrade, it's like you have a note to future you here as well. So make sure you read this.
No. You now have a note from past you.
Oh, you have a note from past you.
Yeah.
Like you want to upgrade or read the note from your past self. And you're like, I should probably read this note.
Yeah, I have a warning from past me.
Well, that actually can be helpful when comparing the changelog. Like, because you can be like, oh, here are some issues I had with this plugin.
Oh, man, we used to be another plugin.
To be able to
the website changelog.
Right right there, in the plugins, like a little, someone needs to make this. I'm happy to consult.
This plugin is quickly turning into a Bill and Ted sequel.
It might even get a membership plugin in the middle of it. It's going to be great, guys. I'm excited.
And then it'll be lyrics from this musical. They'll just pop up. Wait, has that been done? Yeah. There's no way that's been done, right? No.
I think it's Hello Dog.
No one would do that.
That's about it for today.
So he's like the straight man over here. I think Matt Mullenweg made that.
Speaking of Matt Mullenweg.
Yes. Cosper, go for it. Finish us off here.
Speaking of Matt Mullenweg, this Tuesday, December 14th at 1:45 p.m., we will be going live, riffing MST3K
and rapping. Rapping.
Say we'll mostly do the rapping.
Raff.
Oh, Raff.
I do not rap. We do not want that. No, we do not.
Ooh, yeah.
Steve will do the rapping, except for he won't be there, so he'll be rapping in his mind.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I know. I'm very bummed.
So dropping some mind.
It'll only be 3 out of the 4 tools.
Yeah.
It's not even a full toolbox.
We will be riffing on the State of the Word starting at 1:45 p.m. Pacific time on December 14th. I had to look at my calendar.
Yep.
So y'all should be there. Hang out with us in Twitch. You will get informed by the State of the Word, and we will do our best to make sure that you don't take away too much information.
Yeah, we're essentially going to be using Creative Commons to share alike and make a derivative of the work by having it play on the screen while we're talking about it. So
we're just exercising our licenses as we go.
Exactly. Yeah. All right. Well, go buy an NFT. We'll talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.
No.
Speaking of NFTs, just kidding. Go over to WPwatercooler.com/subscribe where you can subscribe to this content and all the content that we do on this. Also, we're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, and if you're watching us, it's probably on YouTube. Talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.
Wait for the drop. Nifty drop.